Puck University. I'm Chris Lynch, your host, and we have a whole bunch of playoff action to get into this week. It's the best time of year to be a college hockey fan, everybody. The playoffs are underway. You see crazy overtimes, crazy long games, and a lot of emotions, both in, positive, thrilling side and in the we're defeated and deflated side. So let's get things started with the games that I saw over the weekend, and those included the 18th longest game in the history of NCAA Men's Division I ice hockey, which the series, let's start with Brown and Princeton, where I think a lot of people expected Princeton to spark something because that top line of Alex Rich centering Max Veronneau and Ryan Kuffner was legitimately one of the scariest units that I think we've ever seen that we've seen in recent college hockey years. Those players up on their top pairing were completely and totally terrifying. It's a unit, and Josh Tevis running the show on the back end as well, an unbelievably capable scoring defenseman, and a lot of fun to watch. The last 2 years, Princeton won the ECAC last season, in part because Ryan Furland was a beast in the postseason, so that helps itself out pretty significantly. But that offensive potential that they had was incredible. What they were able to put out there. So it was some spectacular hockey. It really was some absolutely spectacular hockey. The first night ended up being a 3-0 victory for the Brown Bears. Shutout for Gavin Nieto. Didn't get a lot of shots, but did just enough in order to make the plays that he needed to. Brown got 36 shots on net, and Jeremy Forget, who, I really like this kid moving forward. He's a freshman who came off the bench late on in the season, had somewhere in the 950s over the last 3 games of the regular season, all of which he started. He looks really good, and Princeton fans, you guys have a goaltender in Forget that you can build around. His name is spelled like forget, but it's pronounced a little bit differently. It's like how Patrick Roy was not pronounced Patrick Roy, as I thought until I was told what the pronunciation of his name was. I thought it was Patrick Roy, but no, it is in fact Patrick Roy, and it is Jeremy Forget. So that's worth noting, I guess. So. And it's worth noting that in that Friday night game, goal scorers were Berger, Max Gottlieb, and Justin Jalen, and those last 2 goals came 21 seconds apart from each other. Brown can score really, really quickly, and they can do a lot of damage on you if you give them the space and the opportunity. But then the real story of the weekend, the real one that people are going to remember for a long time, and I guarantee I'm going to remember this game for a very, very long time. Saturday night, oh my God, it was absolutely spectacular. Brown got the first 2 goals. Princeton battled back. Brown scored 3 goals in the third. Martian got the first one, 1 minute, 11 seconds in. And then they bunched up 2 goals kind of close to each other. Colin Burston capitalized on a god-awful turnover in the Princeton end. I mean, it was one of the sloppiest plays I've ever seen. It genuinely was god-awful. And Colin Burston capitalized on that one, and Brady Shue got another one. He had a very, very strong weekend. And they had a 3-goal lead with 4 minutes and 37 seconds left to go. And then Princeton clicked. Alex Rich got one. And he got that one a minute and 1 second after Shue's goal. So we looked at that and we thought, there might be something here, but nah. But what if they... And then they left the back door open again, and a minute and 15 later, or a minute and 17 later, Ryan Kuffner had space, the puck in the net. Of course he's going to score. That's goal number 22 for him. Just don't do it. Don't do that. And so he scores, and then with 48 and a half seconds left, Jackson Cressy, I really like this kid. I really, really like watching Jackson Cressy play, and I think he could do. I think he could do some stuff in college hockey. He scores the game-tying goal. All 3 Princeton goals were scored with an extra attacker. The broadcasters for Brown over top, one of them said that they had the potential. That game had the potential to be the greatest choke job he's ever seen in college hockey. That's just... It was 3 goals in 4 minutes plus, all with the goalie pulled. It was spectacular. And then the overtimes were just unbelievable. First off, Ryan Ferland started the game for Princeton, was pulled, came back in after Jeremy Forget let up 3 goals on 20 shots faced total, and Ferland was heroic for big stretches. Gavin Nieto, early on in that game, made a magnificent save that let you know it might be Brown's night. And that game, just the way it played out, I've rarely seen many games that end up the way that one did. And I should say also that there is a bit of controversy about the game-winning goal in this game because Brent Bowden and Alex Brink combined for the goal. It's very possible that one of them was offsides in that one. I saw some of the tape, and I thought, that's very, very close to being an offsides. And I understand people who might be a little bit salty about that one, but, it was it came 3:30 in. It was the 18th longest played college hockey game ever, and it was... You don't get many games like that where it's just so much dang fun, and it's just so intense from start to finish. It's one of those games where I think a lot of people are going to be looking back on that one and thinking it was special, because it was one of those really fun games that watchers of it, the fans of it who were there, and the people who covered it, and the players who were a part of it, they'll remember that. And I should start the next segment by saying that that's a big, big, big blow to that's a big blow to Princeton, because their run is done. Their senior class is all done. Spencer Kriska, Austin Shaw, Alex Rich, and tri-captains Josh Tevis, Max Varanow, and Ryan Kuffner are done at Princeton. They won Princeton's 30 CAC title. They reached the tournament for the 4th time under those guys' lead. They set a bunch of individual records in their own statistical performance. First off, Josh Tevis, he had the 6th most goals for a defenseman, the most assists for a defenseman, and the 2nd most points for a defenseman in Tiger defenseman history. Varanow and Kuffner, they're top 5 in Princeton scoring all time. They're top 12 in goals. They're top 7 in assists. Kuffner particularly, he had 4 points to close his career. He's the all-time leading goal scorer in the history of Princeton hockey. And there's only one guy who's scored more points in Princeton hockey's history, John Missouri. That's a remarkable run by the Tigers, and I feel for those guys. And that's a hard way for your season to end, but They played valiantly, and those three, Tevez, Veronell, and Kuffner, they're going to have contracts waiting for them. They're going to have professional contracts. Maybe even NHL contracts. Who knows? They're certainly good enough to play at least some level of pro hockey. Maybe I'd argue they should be in the CHL. I'd argue that some team should give them a shot and give them an opportunity for it. I mean, why not? So, there's one other thing I want to talk about with this weekend at Brown, and that is the fact that no one was there. We've gotten into discussions about this on this show before, in which Brown, it feels like Brown doesn't care about its hockey team, and it doesn't care about its athletics, which I've been told by some people who are at Brown that, yeah, you don't go to Brown for its athletics. You go to Brown because it's Brown. And to be fair, I understand that. But 585 people attended one of the best games that college hockey will provide all season. 585 people attended one of the best college hockey games of the year. That's awful. That's genuinely awful. And it's not like the Meehan Auditorium is a small place. It's 3,000. 3,059 is its official capacity listed here. For I think that's for its total, including its seating capacity. And I don't think its seats are 3,000, but you can fit 3,000 in there easy. Standing room, actually, it's a nice looking building where there's railings over top of each of the goals where you can stand and watch from there. Kind of reminds of the times when your parents would go and watch your games and be standing right over the goaltender. It's actually, if you play it right, that can be a place where your team, you go in and the visiting fans are just going to hover over you. They're standing over you. They're going to chant and they're right on top of you. That could be awesome. That building, it's an old-timey building built in 1961 at a construction cost back in the day of $1.8 million, which, that's kind of interesting. And it's hosted some not small things. That building has hosted some not small things. For example, it's done some campaign stuff. Lyndon Johnson, who was campaigning for his re-election, addressed the convocation of Brown at Meehan on September 28th, 1964. They've hosted some big things there. And within the college hockey world, they actually hosted a Frozen Four back in the day. Yeah, 1965 they hosted the Frozen Four all the way back in the day. Now, admittedly, this was back when the tournament was 4 games long, and one of those was a consolation game. So, it's a little bit different than what we have today. But the 4 teams that went, Boston College, North Dakota, Brown, and Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech ended up beating Brown 4-0 and then beat BC 8-2 in the national championship game to win what was the second of 3 Michigan Tech Husky national championships, with Gary Milroy as the most outstanding player of that tournament, and Tony Esposito was the most outstanding player Milroy was the most outstanding player, and Tony Esposito was the starting goaltender for the Michigan Tech Huskies. It's not a small place in the history of college hockey. It's not a small piece of it. The city of Providence has a lot of proud history. It's not a small thing. And it shouldn't be treated as a small thing. And it really is genuinely a shame that Brown hasn't and doesn't treat itself as though It's as though it's a big deal. It's a genuine crying shame. Oh, by the way, one of the centers on the Boston College team that played in that national championship game against Michigan Tech, Jerry York. Yeah, Jerry York played hockey before he coached it. He was a center on that team, and he would have been a sophomore that year. You know, because I'm interested in filling out the details of all this stuff. Anyway, back to the original point of it's such a shame that the building has a lot of potential. The program is fun. Brendan Whitted has done a very good job to build up that program, and they've got some good recruits coming in. They've got some good players there right now. I mean, Tommy Martian's a lot of fun. Brady Shue has got a cannon if he gets a chance to unload it. Tristan Crozier is a good player to watch. Gavin Nieto is an excellent goaltender. That's a fun program. That's a good building. The band is pretty good, but the band isn't there for every single game, so maybe just... And I've had this complaint about Harvard as well. The band should be at every single game so that, fill out the sound, fill out the air, and then also make sure that the sound director, like the person running the board, coordinates with the band so that they know when they're going to play, so that they know when it's the band's turn and when it's the sound system's turn. Just make sure that you're in good communication about all that and make sure you're on top of it, because the band does help out. And their song selection at Brown was good. Their performance was pretty good. And, that really should be a much better atmosphere than what it is. And on a lot of points this year, that place is a morgue. There's no reason why it should be that way. Providence is a great town. Providence has a lot of history in college hockey. Brown has been to Frozen Fours. Brown is one of the oldest programs. They've been playing this sport since 1898. They've been playing for a long time. There's no reason at all why Brown should not be or cannot be a good college hockey program. Why it can't be a well-attended, well-enjoyed, well-liked program. There's no reason for that whatsoever. And I'm annoyed by all this because it genuinely does annoy me when I see something that could be spectacular. It could be and should be a great place. It's on a good campus. It's at a good school. I'm sure that the students would like to have an opportunity to kick back and relax a little bit. I'm sure that Brown would not mind having an opportunity for when, for example, Harvard, Cornell, and all those schools come into town, that they would have an opportunity to be better than their Ivy League counterparts. It just annoys me so much because I see a lot of potential here. And they're missing out on so much of it. It's a good Brown team. Brendan Whitted has done very, very good work with his team. And they've got to have better... They need people who go out. They need more people going to those games. It could be a lot better. Should be a lot better. And I hope for their sake that they have a good run in the tournament. They get quite a challenge this upcoming weekend. They have to go down to Hamden and go play the Quinnipiac Bobcats for a best 2 out of 3 series. And there is a little bit of controversy in that series as well. Chase Prisky is suspended. It stems from an incident. I'm sure you've all seen it, but if you're, I'll catch everyone else up to date. On their final regular season game against Yale, Chase Prisky kicked an opponent. Kicked in a sport where you have knives on the end of your feet. He received a game disqualification, which carries an automatic 1-game suspension, which meant that he was automatically thrown out of the next game that he played. ECAC tacked on another day suspension. That's really bad because so he's guaranteed to miss 2 games. He will play again this season because he will play again for Quinnipiac this season, though. This doesn't end his season because if it goes to a game 3, he plays. If Quinnipiac wins and moves on to the ECAC final in Lake Placid, he'll play again. And even if they get upset in 2 or 3, if they get upset in 3, obviously he does play game 3. If the Quinnipiac gets upset in 2 games and Brown somehow goes in and sweeps them, Quinnipiac's making the NCAA tournament. They'll be a lower seed, and they will have blown a big opportunity to get themselves a much higher seed. But they'll still be in the tournament. They'll absolutely still be in the tournament with zero doubt whatsoever. So Chase Prisky is going to play. I'm fine with the 2-game suspension. It's probably justified that it wasn't just a 1-gamer. And that hurts for a team that's already missing Brandon Fortunato. Prisky does so much for that team. And Shortridge is going to have to be a lot more dominant than he has been right before. Andrew Shortridge, their goaltender. Odin Tufto is also going to have to pick a big amount of slack. There's a lot of younger players on that team who have the opportunity now to fill in and do big work, but I think Quinnipiac is on upset alert. An opportunity for Brown to pull an upset on them. I really do. I think that there's a very, very good chance that Quinnipiac gets sent home, misses out on playing in the ECAC Final Four weekend at Lake Placid. Likely? Well, I still think Quinnipiac is the ultimate favorite. It's on home ice. They have very good crowds that go to those games. I would expect that Brown would be a little bit tired after their weekend, and I don't know how well they'll be ready to go, but I know that Brown genuinely feels like they can win the ECAC tournament this year. They genuinely feel like they can. And it's not a small thing to know and to genuinely, to your core, believe that you can win it this year. That's not a small thing. And they got to be ready for that. Puck University will continue after a brief word.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW I, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
So, one other signing. There's been a brief look at last week's wrap-up to the Hockey East regular season. I don't know how to transition into it, but we'll take a look at the few games that were played. First off, Providence and Boston College got into a fight at the end of their game. That was fun. And they get to play each other in a playoff series. I hope it goes to Game 3 so I can go watch that, because that sounds like fun. Those teams hate each other. It's beautiful. Okay, other notable games. New Hampshire cannot beat Northeastern, and they're very happy that they don't have to play Northeastern unless they pull an upset on UMass Amherst and make it to the Massachusetts Minutemen. And they end up going on, so it's just a tough way to go. UConn pulling a big upset over the Massachusetts Minutemen, and their season is done, and it's a shame that UConn seniors are not going to play another game for that program. But don't undersell what the Huskies can be next season. They were only 12-20-2. They didn't have a great year. They finished in the basement of Hockey East. But they've got some real pieces. Tomasz Wamaka is a great goaltender who, on the possibility that Adam Huska decides to depart and sign with the Rangers, where he'd probably be sent to play for the Hartford Wolfpack, a.k.a. the locker room that's across the hallway from where UConn's locker room is in the XL Center. Even if Huska comes back, they have a great tandem. If Huska leaves, Wamaka is ready to be the starter. He's ready to be the starter for UConn. And then some of these players that Ruslan Iskakov and him alone is just terrifying. Jakim Kondelik looks great. Alex Payasov is wicked. Johnny Evans has some offensive skill. Don't sleep on UConn next season. I'm very, very serious about that. Do not at all sleep on the UConn Huskies next season. They can cause a lot of problems. I wouldn't be surprised if they, A, are a playoff team next year, and B, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up, causing some noise in the Hockey East tournament. Kavanaugh's got some really good recruits coming, and he's got some pieces. He already has some great recruits. Iskakov is a terrifying skater and an unbelievable handler. And Kondelik is a 6'5", number one centerman. Those two pieces you can build around. Those two pieces you can build an offense that can torment people. So I wouldn't put it past UConn to put something together for next season. But shame that their season is done for this year. UMass, not a great close, but they'll have home ice against the University of New Hampshire on Friday and Saturday and a potential Game 3 on Sunday. I'll be there in Mullins, and I'll be covering those games. And then the other big bit of disappointment. The University of Massachusetts at Lowell went to Burlington, Vermont, and got a tie, 2-2, as Stefanos Lekas, 28 saves, and he looked great as usual, and I just feel so bad for him that the Vermont offense didn't have a lot in them this season. It's such a disappointing offensive output that they had this year. So all you can do is, I wonder if he'll be back. I wonder if he'll sign with someone in the offseason, because he is a wicked goalie. If he comes back, I think Vermont has a shot at improving. If he doesn't, then I think the disappointment continues for a long time up in Burlington, because he's a program-saving goalie, and you don't have many of those that come around. So that's the disappointment for Vermont. The disappointment then leads to BU, because, well, that opened the door for BU to get home ice in their series against Lowell. Those two teams would be the 4 and 5, and BU completely fell apart. They barely showed up in Orono. They got a lot of shots on net, 30 of them, in fact, on Rob McGovern. McGovern stopped all of them. BU's defense, sweet merciful Jesus, where were they? They gave up 26 shots, 6 of them went in. They gave up a goal a minute 44 into Brendan Robbins. What the hell, guys? That's an embarrassing performance. Jake Ottinger was awful. Saw 12 shots, 4 of them went in. Vinny Purpura was okay, but it was a terrible showing. Ryan Clunan and Ty Amonte were on the ice for 4 of those goals. David Ferentz was on for 3. Max Willman was on for 4. That's terrible. And they only committed 2 penalties and didn't give up a power play goal, so I guess the special teams worked out decently enough, I guess. But they had 4 opportunities on the power play and did nothing with either of them. So it's a poor way for them to go into Lowell now, because they have to go on the road. They could have had home ice advantage against the Riverhawks. Instead, they have to go to Tsongas Center. That's a terrible way to go in. That's a genuinely god-awful way of going in. So, best of luck to BU, but I don't feel good about the Terriers going in to face the Riverhawks this weekend. I really don't. let's move on to other playoff action, other notable stuff that's going on. The Michigan Wolverine season is done. The Gophers ended up getting a 3-2 overtime win over the Wolverines on Friday night, and they ended up getting a 4-1 victory over the Wolverines on Saturday. And Gopher Nation, you had 1,900 people show up for the Saturday game and 1,800 show up for the Friday game. This is at Mariucci, a place where you can fit 10,000 against Michigan. What the hell? I get that the Big Ten is not your thing. I get you didn't want to leave the WCHA. But what is this? 1,800 at Minnesota for playoffs? I get it's been a disappointing season. I understand, but 1,800? 1,900? How's that acceptable? You're lucky that you end up winning. So, yeah, I'm not particularly thrilled, and I'm not particularly happy with the Gopher fans who straight up did not show up. Their team did. Give them a lot of credit. Their team certainly did. Tyler Sheehy doesn't want himself to go home, and Rem Pitlick. I didn't realize how good a season Rem Pitlick has been having. He's the fourth leading scorer in the nation of 45 points, 37 games played, and he's got 10 power play goals to lead the country, and 3 shorty goals also to lead the country. I did not realize that he was having such a good performance this season. And Tyler Sheehy is leading the nation in power play points and power play assists. I didn't realize that Minnesota was having such a good season on the special teams. And it's been a little bit of a down year, I get that, but 1,800 people and 1,900 people against Michigan. Please fix this. And also from the Michigan side of things, there was a notable departure. Quinn Hughes is now in the National Hockey League. He signed a contract with the Vancouver Canucks, a team that drafted him 7th overall in last year's draft. And, well, shame that Hughes is gone from the Wolverines. He's a great player. He signed a 3-year ELC. And, it probably is the best for him to be moving on. I was genuinely shocked when he decided to come back for a second season at Michigan. Not saying he isn't good, just saying that it was really surprising to see him back. He helped power Michigan to a run to the Final Four last season. He's a very, very skilled player. His brother Jack is even better and very likely to be the number 1 pick this year. So I would laugh if I would laugh to see. Does Vancouver actually have a shot at the number 1 this year? I know that Ottawa is the most likely to end up getting that spot. And excuse me, by Ottawa I mean Colorado, because of how they managed to goof their whole thing up. So that's just that's just brilliant. But I would laugh if Vancouver were to. Well, okay, so they're 3rd from the bottom in the Pacific. So how the Sedins just ended up retiring recently, and how, they made a name off of having brothers on one team, and it was pretty cool and stuff. Well, I'm not saying nothing. I'm just, that would be kind of interesting if the, Well, anywho, speculation aside, congratulations to Quinn. He will be thrown to the Wolves in Vancouver and have as much fun with that as possible. That's a good hockey city, and he's a good hockey player on a team that has a lot of college players. I mean, Brock Besser, Adam Gaudette, now Quinn Hughes. Vancouver has leaned into the college hockey pipeline. It's pretty cool to see, honestly, that a Canadian team has bought in so completely and so totally to the stuff going on down here stateside. It's pretty good, honestly. And one other signing and one other major departure. This comes from Atlantic Hockey, where Mercyhurst was defeated in round one by they played Army. They lost on Friday at home 3-2 in overtime, and they lost at home 5-1. So Army is moving on, but the signing, Joseph Dujak, is departing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, apparently. Yeah, pretty interesting. And there were Don Sweeney had paid a visit out there. The GM of the Bruins paid a visit out there. He's 21 years old. He will forego his final year of college eligibility, and this is one of the interesting signings because Mercyhurst, he's had kind of an interesting. I don't want to be too hard on Mercyhurst because it's a program that has some real potential. They were the regular season Atlantic Hockey champs last year. They were 15-20-4 last season, and they were 13-20-5 this season. So they didn't have a great season record-wise, but, this isn't a particularly good go of things for them. And interestingly enough, Army ended their season twice in a playoff series at Army that went 3 games in 2017, and also this year. 18, the season was ended, I believe, they ended in Robert Morris. They lost in overtime of the semifinal at Rochester, and they ended up giving a goal 6:42 in, and Robert Morris scored with 45 seconds left on a power play and with a man advantage. So, Mercyhurst was a game away from playing for the Atlantic Hockey Championship and maybe getting in with Dujak at the front of it, and he's quite a player. He's quite a scorer from the defense line. In fact, among all scorers, he's third, behind Alex Nemos, who has an opportunity to improve that number, and Taro Hirose, who is also all done at Michigan State. And by the way, poor Sparty, you're wasting an incredible talent in Taro Hirose. Don't goof it up next year. Come back better. This guy deserves to actually have some players around him who could score a little bit more and deserves to contend for stuff. You'll notice a theme throughout all this stuff. Don't waste talent. There's a lot of talent being wasted here. There's a lot of attendance that's being wasted on. There's a lot of people at Brown who deserve to have people actually supporting them. There's a lot of players like at Michigan State, players at Mercyhurst, people who deserve to actually have a little bit more support, and they're being wasted. It's a genuine shame. Minnesota, 1,800 people, 1,900 people for playoff games on your home site against Michigan, a not small name in college hockey. Don't waste your talent. There's a lot of people wasting their talents. It genuinely irks me and bugs me to hell and back. Anywho, Joseph Dujak signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. He played 38 games. His team played 38 games. He played 37 of them. He had 16 goals and 31 points for 47 assists. That is the third highest point total in the entire nation, and I feel inclined to remind people that he is, in fact, a defenseman. I'm going to repeat that again. A defenseman is the third leading scorer. He also had the second most assists behind Adam Fox. Was also really, really good from the defensive position. So, yeah, he's really good. He's not big. He's absolutely not a big guy. I think he's 5'10", 5'11", from Franklin Square, New York. He's not a big guy. He's not an imposing guy. He's not a physically demanding guy. But he's a good player. He's a skilled player. And it's an interesting move going to Toronto because that team has... It's got a lot of offensive skill, so he'll blend in there nicely if he gets an opportunity to rise up the ranks. They're guaranteed losing one defenseman, at least in Jake Gardiner, who fits the mold of offensive skill guy and quarterback of a power play potentially. So they're gonna lose one guy because he's gonna demand money that is gonna be taken up by Marner, and so I wonder if they like Duszak as being a guy that they can have in the system and develop. I don't know how he translates to the Chell. I hope for his sake he gets an opportunity, and also it'd be really good for Mercyhurst to get an opportunity to really get a guy who can do some stuff in the Chell. But that'll fall into the category of only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with him. Okay, so that's all the stuff that really intrigued me from the last week. Also, a few other notes. Wisconsin and Penn State took their series to the max, overtime in the third game, and Hockey Valley roars happily as they win their game 4-3 in overtime, Game 3 at the Pagula Ice Arena. They move on to the semifinals of the Big Ten. There's a decently full building. Okay, they've been really good in attendance-wise so far this year, but it was 32.85 for the attendance, so a little bit down from their normal figures, but pretty good. They threw 50 shots on Daniel Lebedev, made 46 saves. He had a great game. Peyton Jones faced down 39 shots and saved all but 3 of them, so he had a good game as well. And Liam Folks and Alex Nemogs and Evan Barrett, that Penn State team can really, really, really score. So congratulations to Penn State. They're moving on. They keep their season alive. And they've got an opportunity to make some noise. Also, one other series that went the distance. St. Lawrence and Dartmouth. Dartmouth. How did you not finish off St. Lawrence in 2 games? Now you're going to be a little bit more tired, and you have to go into Harvard, and I feel like I have to highlight the fact that you ended up losing a game in the postseason to St. Lawrence. That's not good. You made up for it by murdering them the next night 8-0, but you lost the game to St. Lawrence, a game in which, admittedly, you threw 60 shots on net, and 58 of them were stopped by Daniel Manella, who played out of his mind. So I'll go a little bit easy on you for that one thing, but how did you not sweep St. Lawrence? How did you not sweep that team? Which, I don't mean to be harsh on you guys, but St. Lawrence has not had a good season. 6-29-2 is their final record. That's a terrible hockey team. I can't help but wondering how well Dartmouth is going to respond in their playoff series going up against Harvard this weekend, which Jason Scales, my friend of Inside Hockey, you can follow him at Pucking Off. He will be going to the Dartmouth-Harvard series. He's also going to go up to Lake Placid for the ECAC semifinal and final. I'm going to TD Garden for the Hockey East semifinal and final. So I think we'll have him on next week to discuss what we expect out of things this next week. We'll have people on. Okay, so the games that I'm most interested in. Number 1, I'm going to at least games 1 and 2 of the RIT Sacred Heart series at the Webster Bank Arena in Bridgeport. So I'm seeing some Atlantic hockey playoff stuff. I'm really impressed that Sacred Heart is hosting a playoff series. That genuinely is really good. So congratulations to those guys. Other things that really intrigue me. North Dakota and Denver are playing for a spot in the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, and that's pretty cool. Western Michigan hosts Colorado College. That's pretty cool as well. Nebraska Omaha going up against Minnesota Duluth, and Miami, Ohio against St. Cloud State. I mean no disrespect, but cannon fodder for those two schools, for Duluth and St. Cloud. They should move on and they should win. If they don't, then we have some significant problems here. The WCHA, 4 teams taking part to enjoy here. So, Bowling Green pays a visit to Northern Michigan. Lake State pays a visit to Mankato. That's very good. That's very, 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 very good. So, the WCHA, I think, has the most intriguing series all the way around. I think that Minnesota State has a lot to prove. They were upset last year in their tournament by Michigan Tech. I think there's also a number of people who, across the WCHA, who also their opportunities to get in dwindling. And Bowling Green is ranked 16th in the pairwise, so they are on the outside looking in. Notre Dame is teetering on the edge right now at 15 and only a few points ahead of them. And the other 2 teams in the WCHA that are on the edge of getting in, Lake Superior and Northern Michigan, at 22 and 23 respectively. Those are teams that need wins, and so I think you're going to get some really desperate hockey out of those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. The other teams playing in Atlantic hockey, Robert Morris goes to Bentley because Bentley is hosting a playoff series. That's really good. That's genuinely really good for those guys. Might go there if there's a Game 3, not sure. We'll wait and find out. Army goes to American International. File this under the AIC as the regular season champs. Really good. Curious to see what they do with it. Niagara at Air Force. I'm just shocked Air Force isn't the number 1 overall seed and that they kind of disappointed from the offensive perspective. The other teams playing the ECAC tournament, I mentioned them earlier. Dartmouth is at Harvard, and Brown is at Quinnipiac. I think those are the 2 most interesting series for potential upsets. Yale is at Clarkson. I think this one's a pretty easy one. Is the pretty easiest one. I think Clarkson ends up winning that one and moving on. And then Union at Cornell. Union is a fascinating team. Union has probably a lot more talent, but it hasn't meshed, and so it hasn't been able to show out as much as they really needed to. Cornell. This is at Cornell. I think that that's all you need to know, because Cornell, turns out they do very, very well when they are hosting playoff games at Cornell. Best of luck to those good people. And the Hockey East Tournament. Here are the series, a brief look around. And these will be my very, very quick. We'll wrap up this not too long from now, but my very, very short thoughts. Maine at Northeastern. I think Northeastern has too much talent, and I don't think Maine has the guns to keep up with Northeastern. Boston College at Providence. These teams hate each other. There were fights. It was fun. Providence is the better team, and Providence should move on. I think it should be in 2 games as well. Boston University at UMass Lowell. I would feel a lot better about this if I were, as a BU person, I would feel a lot better if the series were at Agganis. But it's at Songus. 2-game sweep for Lowell, I think. I just don't see them being able to keep up with all the, I don't see it. I think Lowell is going to be thankful that they have another chance at life at home. And they know that they have to win out in order to have a shot at making it to the dance. I think that they're going to play with too much pride to want to give that up. And New Hampshire at UMass Amherst. Or excuse me, at the Massachusetts Minutemen, who play in Amherst, Massachusetts. I think this has the potential of being just a 2-game series, or this could be a lot of overtimes and go 3. And the reason I say that, UMass is the best team in Hockey East. They had a poor ending against UConn. New Hampshire scuffled in badly. But that's a proud team. You don't want to get them into overtime because they've had a lot of ties. They've had a lot of overtime games. You don't want to get New Hampshire into a long game because just based off of the amount of hockey that they've played, the number of overtimes they've gone to, they're a naturally very well-conditioned team. And they're going to be ready to go. I think this will either be a blowout series or I think this will be really, 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 really close. But I still think Massachusetts ends up pulling off the win. But it should be said, an excellent, 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 excellent job by Dave Souza this season to get his team going in the right direction. And that program is going in the right direction. I hope that they're able to keep on moving up and keep on improving and going the way that UNH should be. They should be a contending program. They should be trying to win stuff. And I wish them the best of luck moving forward. In the meanwhile, thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for your interest in college hockey, your interest in the storylines, and your interest in the world that we have going here at large. You can follow this podcast at University Puck on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me, the host Chris Lynch, at CC Lynch Wall, lowercase c's, lowercase wall. On Twitter, you can follow me at CC Lynch 16, the number, which is my graduating class from Boston University. You can follow this show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Blog Talk Radio. You can find us at all those places. Please leave a like or a review, and it really does help us out. Please share this show around. Please help to spread the gospel that is college hockey. I can't say enough. Thank you so, so, so very much for your interest, for your listening, for your comments, your thoughts, your observations, and your continued contribution to college hockey being a wonderful sport. And welcome to March. And in the words of the great Tim Williams, keep your head up and your hits clean.